Welcome to On Our Watch, a podcast about coastal erosion and sustainability in Louisiana, as well as the implications for coastal systems worldwide. My name is Marian Evans. I'm a filmmaker and a producer of the documentary On Our Watch, a feature-length film about Louisiana's coastal land loss crisis. The film's director, Jonathan Evans, and I are proud to produce this podcast series that will continue to explore important coastal issues through conversations with local residents, community leaders, and experts. In this episode, we're speaking with Sandy Nguyen. Sandy is the founder and executive director of Coastal Communities Consulting, Inc., also known as CCC. CCC is a nonprofit organization that provides technical assistance, economic development, social support services, and continued disaster assistance to rural entrepreneurs and their families. And now, our interview with Sandy Nguyen. Thank you so much, Sandy, for joining us today. So I wanted to start by asking you a little bit about your background and your connection to the commercial fishing industry in Louisiana and how that led you to start your business, Coastal Communities Consulting, or CCC.
I began doing this work since the age of 14. It was a direct struggle. It was the direct result of my parents' struggle, being immigrant fishermen from Vietnam. We came here in 1979. Daddy hopped on the boat right away. Mom tried the English thing and the food stamp thing, but at the time it was just too difficult to find help with documents and paperwork, and they charged you crazy money at the time to drive you somewhere and translate. And so we were raised by our 10-year-old brother, by the way, my idol, still my idol today. He was 10 and four siblings. So basically, Mom started shuckling oysters 2 shifts a day. So that's the reason why. But my dad, we live in a Section 8 home, and he would leave the middle room with 2 bunk beds for the 2 girls and the 2 boys, and my 2-year-old brother would sleep with Mom whenever Mom's home for those in between. But that third room, we found out later on that Dad was just calling every friend of his that he knew made it to the U.S., whether they got sponsored in Minnesota, California, and would invite him here because of the climate and the fisheries. So that third room was always left empty with a bunch of little mattresses on the floor, and that kind of made him like the pioneer. My dad passed away in 2018. By that time, we have this whole culture of oystermen, crab, shrimps, all intertwined into this whole industry we have now. We call commercial fishing industry. And we are very good with our counterpart. We were always grateful that our generational American fishermen embraced us. So we kind of added on to an industry that was already thriving generation and generation here in Southeast Louisiana. And so with that, became a bigger culture, in unity, especially along our coast. All of our fishermen, whether what color, what culture, now along the coast, we're one. We hurt and thrive the same way. We need the same help, the same advocacy, and the same voices, basically. And so I started at 14. I thrived in high school, graduated top of the class, went to Tulane. All of this was just, that was the thing to do as Vietnamese immigrant. And Tulane, oh my God, if you hit Tulane, your parents are like, right? But my parents were too busy.
Yeah.
And so by the time I graduated from Tulane, my brother started throwing me stuff about my dad's boat. You're the girl, handle some of this paperwork. And so I started doing daddy's work. It triggered me when he got fined for $25,000 because he didn't have citizenship. I didn't know that. And so once I started doing dad's business, I started going out to translate. And then I found out that every time I went to translate, I learned a new gig. And so by the time I graduated from college, I had hundreds of Asian families that I helped establish, at the time, gas station, boats, and then later on, nail salon, and the boat business, the fishery. They continuously needed my help. And one of the things that really drove me was the fact that every time someone bumps into a fisherman for service, it seems like they jack the price up 3-4 times. It irked the hell out of me. So I kind of like, you know what? I made my mind up that I would never charge my community, and especially commercial fishermen. And then years and years, thousands of business, thousands of family. And then I went out to the coast after Katrina. And then that's when I bumped into the generational American fishermen and found out that they were way worse off with no help, no understanding that their fishing business, a good way of life, a culture, however, a big time small business community that they never understood. And so I opened it wide open, my service to the coast, still at no charge. Just paper, copier in the back of my car, and I just rock and roll.
Wow.
Uh, and then the SBDC picked me up. It was like, this girl is doing business consulting. And
Yeah.
from there, with the SBDC's pay and help and kind of guidance, and really kind of explained to me that you're really doing really good business consulting.
Because you have such an intimate knowledge of the hurdles it takes and the paperwork and
And I
things
do
that,
have a very intimate relationship with all these family because they just do not care or want to go anywhere else. And quite frankly, it's because they've been dismissed so long all their lives. Nobody really outreach or cared. But I'm gonna tell you, our fishermen are some of the smartest people when it comes to land, water, culture, and way of life along our coast. I've learned everything from water to seafood to now environment from our fishermen. With CCC, I have a lot of partners now too,
right.
environmental groups and other partnerships that have helped me learn a lot.
And so, what is the main mission of CCC as an organization?
Well, well, it's an extension of my work since I was a baby. It's basically more into small businesses because that's where my core
Yeah.
experiences is. But I don't think anyone knows, the fishing industry, from federal laws to state laws to the culture, the way of life, the business, the boat itself. I don't think most people know more than I. And so with that, finding people to do the work that I do was my training from A to Z. So I didn't need big time college grads or anybody like, I just needed them to speak
Yeah.
and then be able to do work online, use the computer. So my staff doesn't have to be, high educated folks, but they all had to have the passion and kind of learn along. So you start off as a secretary here, then you wind up being a program coordinator within 3 or 4 years. But I was always into the fishery, and nobody really was. And so the whole purpose of the CCC was to continue to do the number one service, the daily service, is that business technical assistance, and then economic development.
Right.
And we had social service, but we had to stop that because environment came around with the diversion. But we are super, super very good with disaster recovery, and that's totally from my work throughout the years. So it's four really four focus areas that we kind of work on, but mainly as more specific to the industry, the commercial industry.
Right. And so, why is the commercial fishing industry in Louisiana so important for the state and regional economy?
Well, I didn't know this until I really got after Katrina, when I got phone calls from across the South from other Asians talking about, why is it that we get storms in Florida and Mississippi all the time, but we don't get the kind of help that you guys get from your state? And we are one of the three largest industry in the state, and I think it's just because our seafood with the Mississippi River, the fresh water. We have the mouth of the Mississippi River. So our seafood with the brackish water, you know what that is, the fresh water. I didn't know that until recently. Why people flock to our state for seafood is because of the mouth of Mississippi River. And so along that mouth is the 7 parish that I serve. So we have to focus because our seafood, not only is it huge for the economy, it feeds into the tourism, which is another big industry, as well as subsistence and food resources for not only our state, but across the country, especially shrimp. We produce the most shrimp in the country. 25% of our shrimp comes, and it's already surveyed and proven and researched that shrimp is the most desired seafood.
Wow.
And it is the largest fleet we have here in the state of Louisiana. So we have the shrimp, oyster, crab, and finfish. But the reason why it's important is because it's part of a lot of families' lives here. Um, it is a huge part of the economy within that coastal community, the state as well as regional, when you think about the quality and the amount of seafood we produce. And
Right.
so this is where Louisiana is, they focus more,
Yeah.
and they, I think,
And it's a part of the culture.
yeah, it's a part of our culture. And that's why we get a lot more attention as a state than the other Gulf states. But not only that, I'm more into the families.
Right.
And the longer I work with these families, the more I want to get into it because, quite frankly, I haven't seen really anyone that really does the work that I do. And so, and what I do is simply, my personal motto, doing things that matters.
Right.
So, you interview a lot of folks, a lot of my friends and partner, but today it's going to be all about who I serve, who I'm passionate about, and who really needs it.
Right. And so on that note, I was wondering if you could tell me about some of the challenges that the seafood industry in Louisiana has been facing over the last several years.
Well, they've been challenged all their lives, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you, like my grant writer, she wrote this one line that I'll never forget. You know, adaptation is a daily phenomenon along our coast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you talk about challenges, without being so far away from the city, without broadband these days, and their whole lives has been all about themselves. So when you talk about challenges, when I bump into these folks after Katrina, I realized that they prepare so well. As a nonprofit, folks always ask you to apply for money to help folks prepare for hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
In Southeast Louisiana, I feel like the fishermen, they have their own way of preparing. And I learn from them. However, it's the after the hurricane, the recovery effort is one that they have never really, for decades, really looked into or understand or even know about. Is those loans and grants and where are we going to get the immediate food and water. I think that along the coast as a community, I think they're really good about that already. But when you talk about their business, mainly their boat, right? A boat is a family.
Yeah.
And so they've been doing it on their own all these centuries and
Mm-hmm.
years. I realized that because I've been out there with everyone since Katrina, and it's been me, myself, and I, and now with the CCC, and now with CCC, I've gained a lot of partnerships, and found that there are folks that cares. There are folks that want to work with us. However, there was never a space or like a platform or a place like the CCC where they could really connect with the community.
Right.
And that's another important aspect that I like to keep CCC in the middle.
And so, what has been the impact of some of these challenges on these families and the people?
We're fine with disaster. I feel
Yeah.
like I've not disaster. We're fine with hurricanes. We're so
Right.
used to it, and I think every time there's a hurricane, I'm always the last one out of that community that the eye is soaring to, because they have ways that they change their ways too, in a sense. So I kind of I truly believe they're like expert, because every hurricane it seems to change a little bit of how they prepare. Like Ida, they all stayed on the boat. They did not leave their boat. They figured out how to maneuver their boat when it rises and falls for some reason. I got scared because my husband was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why they had to stay on their boat for Ida, because they were working on adaptation. A lot of them were putting money into transitioning their business bigger, better. Too much money was there already before COVID hit. That was fine.
Mm-hmm.
We economically okay. But we had PPP and other assistance for COVID, kind of held on to it,
Mm-hmm.
and prayed a storm don't come so that we continue to adapt once COVID goes away. And then Ida hit. That was our worst fear, because now every dime we saved to kind of wait around for COVID had to go back to repairing the boat.
Right. Just
However,
another expense.
yeah. So when there's disaster, they come to me. But with the diversion talks, the way I did Ida was Sandy was not CCC, and Sandy was not gonna, you know, help you recover from Ida whole again like we used to do. We're gonna help you recover whole and more resilience. Put that adaptation plan into it, and so it was like a 2-in-1 deal. And the only reason I was able to do that, it was because for the first time in my whole entire life servicing them, one thing, sole reason why I was able to do like big time formal adaptation with them was the fear of the diversion. That was it. It was the first time in my entire 36 years of servicing them that they realized and had to think ahead, which they never do. Back in the days, we'd say, what would you do if you can't shrimp no more? Or you can't tell them that. But the fear of the diversion has got our fishermen, the good ones that come in here, to think ahead. And that was our opportunity to really dive deep into how much of those BP money you still have from what we got you. What did you do with your CARE Act money? Ida, did you get hurt? If you did, and then we went from there. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so hurricane is not an issue.
Yeah.
But the man-made disaster, the unexpected disaster, 10 years of BP, that was fine. It hurt. It hurt the bottom of the ocean, but we got compensated for that. We could hang on, right? But then COVID, Jesus Christ, that was a worldwide thing.
Yeah.
And we're seasonal. Let's just talk about the shrimpers right now. It's the largest fleet. Every May is our thing. We wait for every May. So if we get knocked down one May, okay, we dip into our emergency funds or whatever, Sandy kind of playing with you through the years. And then next May, we didn't know COVID was going to last that long. So now the mental health was going. 2022, we're going to head out. We're done. We're about to go out for the first time, a full season. We didn't know that the shrimp price, the war. This is where it hurts us, not because of the hurricanes that we're used to, but just weird, crazy, unthinkable disaster that we are not prepared to, or even used to, or even know to even think about adapting. In a sense, who knew the war was going to happen? That jacked our diesel to $4 or $5. And here's the problem: since Katrina, for decades, the imports continuously came in at a rate the government was not worrying about until 2022. The price still went down. We're going through some kind of inflation, right? Everything's up. The oystermen are getting more for their bags of oysters, sacks of oysters. Everybody else is getting more money. But the shrimp price continued to go down, go down. Now we're going 3 years, 2022, and we thought we can't do it because of the diesel. And now 2023, the price went down to 80 cents and stayed there. At 80 cents, the price is inhumane. It's not low at poverty level no more. It's inhumane. And when I say that, everybody kind of get quiet and think about it. It's killing us. And so I feel like 4 years consecutively, everything you work for in your life is gone. Right. And I'm talking to you today, and my federal fleet, my big boats, are all out in the blind. No one knows what the price is going to be. But if they wait for the price, they lose days of shrimp. But if they go now, 3 weeks later they'll come in. These are my big freezer boat. They're hoping between now and 3 weeks there's a price, and a fair price. If not, you're looking at each of these boats losing about 23,000 in just diesel. And
right, because it's expensive to go out with your boat. You have expenses to cover.
And diesel level off right now, but we don't have a price. And if it's 80 cents like it was last year, I don't know. I don't even want to think about it.
Right, it's a compounding effect of these years of
So it's like that you kind of want to always expect May to come around. So around, I can say, Mom, can I borrow $10,000 to pay taxes? And taxes and a couple of thousand to do annual repair. Mom would be like, sure, here, May's coming. I know you're going to take care of it. But when you do that for 3 consecutive May, you're in debt.
Yeah.
You already spent all your life saving, mutual fund, and all that stuff's gone. Because the monthly bills. Now, the maintenance of a boat still has to be done every year. Boats have to run. If it sits there, it gets it gets worse. I mean, you're more prone to that. Yeah. And so where we at now is everybody, especially the men, Mike Giddy, fun, flirty, fishermen that's been doing this for. I can see the mental health and the struggles in the Asian because I'm used to it. But for me, it's been very difficult to look at my generational American fishermen like they are today. Most of them comes in here, they don't even understand that they stress out and
Right.
they're not used
the
to
mental toll it takes.
And I can't used to it because when they look at me, when I walk in the office, they'll pull me in the office to look at me and their eyes will turn red right away. That's not our generational fishermen. I couldn't deal with it. So for the longest time, for many months, since last year, I have been working at home, working the government, the policy sides, just contacting as many friends and partnership, and everyone's there, but and things are moving at the state and federal level to see about this import. But I think it's way too late. And I know the feds have known about this. It's just I really think that they didn't care. And so I'm talking to you now, like every month we've been going through a death, overdoses, sudden heart attacks, strokes. All of this is as a direct result of the shrimp price crisis we've been dealing with for the past 2 years. And quite frankly, the financial hardship is unbearable as we speak now.
Right.
And it breaks my heart because as we're talking today, our country is sending millions and billions of dollars outside the country to make sure other families, we're the most humane country, most generous. Tax here and there, $15 to save. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that our own country doesn't understand. They only know that we have good seafood in Louisiana, but I don't think they understand the way of life, the culture that's involved in our industry enough to kind of, And so some of it has to do with us too, but unfortunately, it is where it is, and we'll find out where it goes after this month. But the overlapping disasters, the overlapping weird, unconventional, unknown disasters, starting with the biggest oil spill, and then COVID and Ida, Zeta, Ida, and the price and the war, it just ultimately.
And the imports,
Yeah, the imports have been there,
right?
But that we didn't think that it would continue to be this drastic to where it dropped our prices to where we couldn't work anymore, and we can't sell. Well, nobody wants to buy. The industry, the whole value of the industry is gone. And so that's the dilemma. And that has kind of tweaked our strategic plan at the CCC into holding off on the environmental part. The diversion is something they're not thinking about right now. Right now is economic development, secondary income stream, taking our wives off the boat, getting a citizen for potential jobs, taking advantage of the industries like LNG, the port, whatever that's going down towards Lower Plaquemines and other coastal areas to kind of transition, working with universities and partners to see if they could tweak some of these training to make it more appealing and possible for some of our younger fishermen to get some training and do other stuff.
Right.
Have them drive Uber, whatever it is. We had to change our strategy to more economic development moving forward, just to get them out of this crisis.
To give them some support, yeah. So what do you see as any potential solution, or what are your kind of hopes for the future?
I don't know, we're going 4 years.
Yeah.
I myself probably would not be able to hang on this May, because I'm a shrimper myself. So can you imagine the 2,100 distinct client we have in the office? 80% of our clients are commercial fishermen, 7 parishes, from Lafourche to St. Tammany. And then you have Grand Isle and Lafitte in between. We are all in the same shoes right now, having to do which one, bread or eggs.
Mm-hmm.
So you can tell. I don't know what
Yeah,
the
no one
future
knows.
is. I think we've been knocked down so hard. Even if government or state steps in now, and the way our country operates with laws and rules, anything that can come out, it probably is too late for many families already. And because they're out there without a price right now, their mental health, I feel like, is the scary part. You know, so I made sure all our federal boats were inspected by the Coast Guard for safety before everyone got out. I'm just worried about when some of our folks already had those minor strokes too, but they can't stay in any longer for the sake of their mental health and their physical health being inside for so long. That's not a typical fisherman way of life.
Right. Well, I think the work that you're doing is so important, and I know
It's tough because the mental health is tough.
it's tough to talk about, tough to deal
It's
with.
tough to approach them.
Yeah.
It's tough to get people in to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they are willing to understand it, how do you care or help medically such a diverse coast with 5 different languages? You understand what I'm saying? And so where I'm at right now is just whoever it is that wants to work with us and understand our dilemma, I will go for it. That's just the reason why I'm so busy. Folks are hearing about it. Our locals are starting to understand and asking for local shrimp. That's the only way I can continue is whoever it is that comes to us now or myself, I will be willing to do anything if it means something or if it matters to our commercial fishermen right now. But the work has to continue.
The work does have to continue.
And we have to continue because there are a lot of other stuff within the industry that our client continues to need help with.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all the support that you offer to this community, and thank you for talking to me today. I really appreciate hearing everything that you're working on. And
thank you. We need the exposure, so whatever you can do to help.
Thank you for listening to On Our Watch. We hope you enjoyed our discussion with Sandy Nguyen. Don't forget to subscribe to On Our Watch on your favorite podcast app to be notified about future episodes. You can find our feature-length documentary On Our Watch, as well as a video version of today's episode, in the links below. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back with another episode next week. This podcast is made possible through support from the Greater New Orleans Foundation and executive produced by Bruno UK Steiner.